Hi friends, how are you doing? So as I promised, I will be creating a set of series for CCSK version 5. So this is the domain 1, which talks about cloud computing concepts and architecture. So let's start. Okay, so CCSK has got a total of 12 domains. The first domain is the cloud computing concepts and architecture, and this is the foundation for the other 11 domains, which we'll be going through later in the series. So before we start domain 1, we have to understand what is cloud computing. So cloud computing is a model of delivering computing services over the internet in a very simplistic term. There are key characteristics to it like on-demand, self-service, broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity, and measure services. So all in all, what you see on the screen is there are two definitions from NIST 800-145, which talks about cloud computing. Then you also have a definition from ISO. So these two is good to have, good to know, good to understand. In a simpler way, I would say cloud is that it takes a set of resources like your processors, memory, CPU, put them into a big resource pool, and then they are allocated using the technology called virtualization. Okay, before we start, I will be using a word called CSP, Cloud Service Provider. So these are some of the big companies which are managing cloud or they are providing cloud services. Some of the names will be AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, IBM, Oracle, Alibaba. What you will find in common is they all have five essential characters like resource pooling, rapid elasticity, measure services, on-demand self-service, and a broad network access. And they also operate in a uh, service model, which is IS, PaaS, and SaaS. So how would I? There will be slides which will be sharing more about it, but in a very high level terms, it will be like IS is like provides virtualized computing resources, and your PaaS will be platform as a service, which provides a platform for developing, running, and managing your application, like Heroku. When you go for SaaS, it's like a software application running over the internet, like your Microsoft Office 365, Salesforce. You will also find four deployment models. These are the key ones. So you will see public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and community cloud. So how do you understand and how do you differentiate between them? So public cloud will be a shared infrastructure. It has an open access like AWS and Azure. Then a private cloud will be a dedicated infrastructure and a restricted access, maybe a government running their own private cloud that is only meant for their own usage. Hybrid will be a combination of a private and a public cloud. Community is more of a shared. Let's say Sony, they're hosting a gaming session, so they can actually or similar communities can come in together because they some of them only provide X part. That means they only provide the platform. The other one can provide the software which is running, and some of them can provide the user base. So this is how the community cloud works. So all in all, this slide is kind of very important, very key. My suggestion is mark it, tag it uh, before your exam or anytime you have a discussion for cloud computing. Keep it handy. It will be really useful. So within cloud computing, there will be five essential characteristics, and these five essential characteristics will be let me go one by one. Let's say on demand self service. So users can provision and manage resources without using or requiring human intervention, like a self service portal, automated resource allocation, scalability, and flexibility. Then it comes to broad network access, where you can access resources over the network from anywhere, anytime, like internet access, mobile access, remote access. Comes in resource pooling, which is like you have pool all the resources like processor, CPU, memory, and form a big pool. And it in a multi-tenant environment, you can actually allocate these tools or these resources dynamically. So it helps you with the shared resources scalability. Rapid elasticity will be in case you want to quickly scale up and scale down to match changing needs. Let's say you have sudden surge in computing requirement, so you can include some more virtual machines on the fly. But let's say you are running or you're running a few processes and then you want to cut down on these virtual machines, so you can shrink them off as well. Then comes in measure services. Definitely, you need a mechanism where you can actually measure them, monitor them, and report for transparency, because you will be definitely charged by the cloud service provider. So you should have a means how you check it. Okay, so there should be a user-based billing. Should be cost transparency, and also mechanism for resource optimization. So these are five key characteristics, and why you need them. Definitely, it increases your agility and flexibility, increases your efficiency, reduce cost. Definitely, that's key, something which you have to look for. Reliability and availability, and better security and compliance. So understanding of these five uh, characteristics is really essential for your exam. So one more thing to add, if you see the last statement, ISO 22123, there's a six characteristics, which is kind of a multi-tenancy, which is kind of a distinct from resource pooling. But multi-tenancy is mostly in the public clouds, where you are have multiple tenants sharing the same shared resources. So keep this handy. This is kind of an important slide for you. Okay, moving to the service models. So, cloud service models define the level of control and responsibility shared between the cloud provider and the customer. So, this is the essence of the service models. There are uh, three of them are the key service models, which is IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. So let's go one by one. I start with IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service, in which provider will have virtualized resources for you to consume, like server, storage, and network. So they are available so that the controller or the customer can create their own, or they can manage their operating system, application, and data. So the provider's responsibility will be towards the infrastructure, and customer's responsibility will be to manage the security and performing an update. So more of the, to give an example, will be AWS EC2 virtual machines in Azure, or Google Compute Engine. Then comes in platform as a service, which is in between IaaS and SaaS. Okay, so platform as a service, PaaS, is more where uh, the provider will have an environment for the development for the application, and for the customer it will be to manage their application. In terms of provider will manage your infrastructure, platform, and security, and on the customer side you will be actually responsible for the application itself. Then comes in SaaS, which shifts responsibility towards service provider, cloud service provider. So it's more over like you are running a software application over the internet, and customers' uh, responsibility will be to use the application. There will not be any management required, but yes, you will be configuring the application. That's a key thing to that. Okay, so definitely a cloud service provider is managing your infrastructure, your platform, your security, your updates, while you are responsible for managing the configuration, maybe the user base. The examples for SaaS will be Salesforce, Office 365, Google Workspace. Apart from that, you will find a lot of key terms in the market these days. They name as, or I would say, other cloud service models, which are mentioned as function as a service. Then you have desktop as a service, then disaster recovery as a service, storage as a service. So these are uh, terms which have been crafted for marketing as well. But for the exam, I would say IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS is the thing which you have to go through and understand the essence of it, which is more to understand the responsibility of a cloud service provider and a cloud customer. Okay, the cloud deployment models, there are four of them, and the reasons to define them is how the cloud resources are provisioned, managed, and accessed. That's the key thing. So we start with the public cloud. So public cloud is a shared infrastructure. It's open access, provided by cloud service provider like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Kind of scalable, on-demand resources, multi-tenancy, resource pooling. These are some of the examples, and they are generally made available to general public and large industry group. Moving to the private cloud, this is more of a dedicated infrastructure. So when I say dedicated infrastructure, it's something which is um, solely operated by a single organization. The example would be a government cloud, and which is only used by certain agencies. It doesn't, or it's not available to the general public. Okay, and they are again managed by the organization or a third party vendor or third party provider. Uh, customizable. You can change settings, configurations according to your needs as kind of a single tenancy. But you can also mention that multiple agencies can be part of a single group. Okay, and they are dedicated resources, they are not shared. Then comes in community cloud. Community cloud will be kind of shared infrastructure, but with a restricted access. And the example will be like research institutes. There is a collaboration, likewise, gave an example about Sony hosting a gaming service. So Sony might be giving the platform, then you have a user base, and somebody else's provider providing a network access or a network mesh. So this is how a community cloud works. The hybrid cloud is something which is a combination of two or more clouds, like private, public, and they still remain their own unique entities. Like, they work together, but there are proprietary technologies, applications which are there, and sometimes it is used in case there's a burst or an overload. As I mentioned, like, you are segregating, or there is a bits and pieces which is shared between or are provided by different cloud providers. Okay, you will also hear about other deployment models like multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is a scenario wherein a cloud customer is actually uh, utilizing the best of different clouds. That's the easy way to understand. Okay, and it's to reduce the dependency. And then you can also have hybrid multi-cloud, definitely a combination of a public cloud and a private cloud. So these are the four cloud deployment models, which you should remember for your exams. The other two are something good to know. Okay, so in 1.3, which is a reference and architecture model, when I go through the, within the book, actually I found it's more towards how the entire stack is. So your software as a service is built on platform, and platform is built on infrastructure. And they have also given or cited some of the, I would say, four different architecture models or the domains which you can use to actually craft or you can understand. So some of them is ITIL, TOGAF, SRM. There's something you have to go through. I it's more, I would say, is good to know. I didn't find a direct reference. There is a material links given in the book itself, so you can refer back to it. But in nutshell, if you look into any architecture, always understand that SaaS is built on PaaS and PaaS is built on infrastructure. So that's the key thing which I got from this section. So the next uh, two upcoming slides, slide number 9 and 10, they will be really helpful for you. They actually gives you an understanding how, as a security professional, you can scope what will be your responsibility, and how the responsibility is shared between cloud service provider and cloud customer. So starting with it, always understand that cloud service providers are responsible for the security of the cloud, and cloud service customers are responsible what they deploy in the cloud. So off the cloud is CSP, in the cloud is CSC. That's the key thing to understand. Okay, and as well, when you go move down in the SPS stack. So what is the SPS stack? Is a SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. Okay, so when you go down in the stack, you will find that the responsibility of a service provider decreases, while for the customer is increases. That means you have more things to perform, to manage your operating system, patch them, deploy them, keep them secure. Okay, uh, so this is a crucial thing. The important takeaway from this slide will be you have to regularly review and understand the obligation. What are the responsibility? They keeps changing. The new services are introduced. New functions keep coming in. A lot of services being introduced. So as a security professional, your core responsibility will be to understand what will be a review cycle, how often you have to review, how you're going to perform vulnerability management, patch management, firewall reviews. So these are the key things. So your review cycle is key to that. And again, it ties back to the responsibility. Okay, I want you guys to tag this slide, and also maybe if you can find this diagram, print it and then post it. It's also very key for an exam. Okay, so when you go for the exam, you have to understand how the things work, what are the difference between or the responsibilities between the cloud service provider and the cloud customer. Okay, so this slide also talks about the shared responsibilities between the customer and the provider. So the provider will be responsible for the infrastructure, the physical security, network, data center, the hypervisor, which is on which and which is resourcing or which is uh, pulling all the resources, compliance and the regulation, again monitoring, incident response, patch management of the hypervisors, securing your data storage and transmission, and access control and authentication of the cloud. So the term is they are responsible, cloud service provider is responsible for the cloud. Okay, so but when it comes to the customer's responsibility, so any data which you are hosting in the cloud, that is your responsibility. They should be encrypted. There should be application which are secured. You have proper identity and access management. You have to manage the configuration and change management, vulnerability, compliance scanning, regulations. Um, then it comes to data backup and recovery, uh, securing your APIs, and definitely monitoring and logging. So these are the things which a service provider cannot offer you. So they, as I mentioned again and again, customer has to manage the security in the cloud. Okay. So when we talk about the shared responsibility, there will be still things which, co-own, I would say, like the risk management. Again, from both perspective, we have to see the cloud model itself is secured enough by the provider, while we also have as a customer the responsibility to see whether it's secure. We have to perform a check, do a compliance check, and all that. Again, all the security assessments and audit, which goes for the cloud, definitely compliance monitoring, uh, any kind of security training and awareness. It is very much needed for both the parties. Okay, you will find some of the frameworks I would say the cloud security frameworks. NIST is one of them. CSA, they provide a cloud controls matrix, which we'll be sharing in the next slide. Okay, then you have ISO 27001, PCI DSS, HIPAA. Okay, so uh, from a cloud perspective or cloud security perspective, what are the best practices? So always use a strong authentication and authorization. Encrypt your data in transit and at rest. Okay. Implement access control and perform segmentation. Monitor and log security events. Okay. Conduct regular security assessment, could be vulnerability, patching, firewall reviews, identity and access management reviews. Okay. Secure your APIs, how they are integrating, because most of the cloud operates on API. Okay. Keep your softwares and systems up to date. Do a proper patching of your application as well. Possible to implement DLP, data loss prevention, and also have an incident response plan available for your organization. Talk to your cloud service provider how to implement it, what will be their responsibility, what all the actions they can take or they can secure you. Okay. Definitely, this is all because there are a lot of challenges within cloud. You have data breaches, unauthorized access, uh, DOS, DDoS attacks, ransomware, malware. You have insider threats. Okay, so you have to meet to regulatory requirements. You have compliance. Uh, so all in all, what you have to understand, it's a shared responsibility. It's just putting up the data onto the cloud doesn't mean that you have secured it. It's not, it's your responsibility. But definitely the responsibility of the service provider is more towards that the platform they have provided is secure enough. Okay. So we are at the last section 1.4 that talks about cloud security scope, responsibilities, and model. So in order to understand and gauge how the service provider performs, there are documents which are suggested by Cloud Security Alliance, and they are used, which customers can use to make an informed decision. Okay, so CSP should actually document all their internal controls for the platform, for the cloud platform, and this can help the customer to make an informed decision what kind of controls we have, how the APIs are secure, what are the hashing algorithms, certificate types, multi-factor authentication being used. Then cloud customer can actually make use of it to build their own roles and responsibility metrics. Okay, So CSA has provided two documents, CAIQ, which is used by the service provider to document their security compliance controls. Then CCM is actually a framework. It's a cloud control matrix, and it's a framework for the cloud computing. Okay, so the overview or the benefit of the use of this framework is it talks about 197 controls which are used to secure the cloud application and the data. Okay, also to map to the standards like PCI DSS, ISO 27001, and also for the evaluation of the service provider. Okay, so within the CCM, you have 17 domains, and these 17 domains categorized into access control, data security, about 197 controls objective, like specific control types which have been enabled. Okay, and their specification details about how to implement and how we can use it. So it's a very key document which as a security professional you should download and take a look and keep it handy. They keep updating it as and when things changes. Okay, so the key benefits will be to improve security of the cloud, security posture. uh, it will help you to simply understand or a simplified version of your compliance requirement for your specific industry, uh, for the evaluation of the cloud service provider, performing a risk management. Okay, so all in all, yep. So we come to the end of the domain one. The key thing which you have to still understand is service provider. The cloud service provider is responsible for the security of the cloud. Okay, that includes infrastructure, hardware, and network. While the customer will be responsible what they deploy in the cloud. So with that, uh, we end with the domain one. We'll be moving to the next slides, and I will be releasing the rest of the domains. So okay, I want to thank you again. So like and subscribe the channel, and I will be adding more videos soon. Thanks a lot.